Welcome to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. We've helped thousands of people save time and make more money by improving their online stores. Check out patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for thousands of hours of full-length ad-free podcasts and coaching calls. Join our Facebook group with thousands of sellers making the transition from hobby to business. See you in the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Resellers Podcast. Today, we're going to do an execution podcast, 5 steps to get better sales. And no more pontificating. I'm going to give you guys the plan today. I'm going to lay it all out and we should be able to knock this out. Okay, so we always talk about niching down. We talk about increasing your Rolodex. And I was reading a book called A Technique for Producing Ideas. And the guy that wrote it said that he's never worried about sharing his secrets because nobody ever takes the time to get to know their product or their customer, so they'll never be successful. So, that being said, the 5-step plan, we'll lay it all out and then we'll talk about each step. Figure out a category that you want to learn. Intensely research that category. Go to the thrift, try to find it, list it, and then review what happens. I know that sounds pretty obvious, but I don't think a lot of people in the group are doing that.
I don't think the group or the general public does any of that, honestly.
Yeah.
And the secret podcast that we did, kind of like the moral to the story was to front load a lot of that education.
Yep.
And a lot of people, they go to the thrift and they look everything up while they have it in their hands, rather than front loading the education and just going through and picking up the things that they already know is good. Part of front loading the education that is kind of unsaid is while you're learning the product, you're also learning the customer. So like, every single item that I buy or I pick up, I already know who's going to buy it. Every single one. Yep. So when I pick up an item, I know, hey, this guy in this brick and mortar store, he's going to buy this from me. This guy who buys from me every single day from Australia, as soon as this gets listed, he's going to buy it from me. All the way down to like, I know who this customer is that's going to buy this Tommy Bahama item. So if you gain the education of the items that you're selling, you can already visually imagine who is going to purchase that item once you put it up for sale.
And the key here, so the first part is pick a category that you want to learn about. So we're going to be intimately getting to know the customer and the product, both of these things. And they are related because if you intimately know the customer, you know what kind of features that they're looking for in the item, what kind of condition, what they care about. A brand new white tuxedo shirt that someone wears to an event, that customer won't buy one with a stain.
Or on the floor.
Or on the floor, yes.
Yeah, they want to see a mannequin with proper presentation. Absolutely.
So I think the key is intimately get to know. And I think that's the part that is everything. Everything good. When people in the group share something that they intimately know about any category, it is amazing because they didn't get to that level without putting in the work to figure it out. And I think that when Jeannie was talking about Barbies and how they wear, that blew my mind. Like beyond just knowing the Barbies, which faces they are, which models they are, what clothing, what hair, but how they wear. All of that, I feel like everybody listening to that toy call was glued to the screen. It's cool.
It was very cool, even if you're not even into the niche. But maybe the portion of, intimately care, maybe that gets disregarded by a lot of people because I think I make a very good effort to intimately care about, every single person in the group. I commit everything that they say to memory. From their messages to even the first thing they say, I recall it years later because that matters to me. And like intimately caring about the product, the customer, and also the people who you're buying to, and then the people that maybe you're selling to. So like yesterday, I sold a lot of stuff to 2 people, and like they were on the fence about buying the item. So like I had to get into their kind of mind state and show them why this was a good deal. And then eventually, they decided to make the purchase, which was, highly beneficial to me, but it will also be highly beneficial to them because there's always holdups in everything, in selling something, buying something, even negotiations. If I was going to sell something to you, a lot of times it's price. For them, it was sell through because it was higher end items. And as we know, higher end items may take a little bit longer to sell through. But I had to convince them that the amount of money that they were putting up, even if this took a year to sell through, the potential payoff would be well worth it compared to, buying a bunch of items for $6 that sure, they might sell through within 1 or 2 or 3 months. They're paying up a little bit, but every single time one of these sells, the potential payoff is way larger than the game that they're used to play. But without getting intimate knowledge of their business, they have a brick and mortar store down in Miami. Without getting on the same page with all of that and figuring out what is beneficial for them, what are the drawbacks, and that's the same thing for our eBay customers. That's the same thing for the people in the group. That's the same thing for the people that are around us. All of that stuff. And maybe a lot of people just don't care enough. But I think if you really and truly care about the things that you're doing, getting that knowledge becomes easy. But if it's an effort to get that knowledge, then that's what people are not going to do. Just like how people don't want to put forth the effort to do their brand research. They just want it implanted to them on a microchip or just given to them on a silver platter. Yeah. But if you really, really cared about, getting the knowledge, being the best, having the best store, being the best version of you, you would sit up and you would research every single night. And there's a lot of people that do that, like Opus. He's buying books, literally books on brands. And the stuff he says in the Facebook group now, you can tell he's reading these books and getting the knowledge. Yep. And I used to do the same thing. The same polo book that he had, I've read that book before. Yep. And that book has made me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yep. But it's just about sitting down, gaining the education, and bettering yourself and bettering your business. That's ultimately what it is at the end of the day.
That's so important. I think there's books on Jordan Brand. There's books on sneakers. There's books there's tons of books on Levi's.
Totally.
And when you start getting into it, you really start to figure out what the customer wants. So there's a real estate agent in South Florida. I think his name is John Lennon. He sold more real estate in Miami Beach than anybody ever. And they asked him why do you sell so much real estate? And he says, I don't really sell real estate. I sell what people are looking for. This guy wants a bathroom that has these features. This guy wants a view. This guy wants 20-car garage. I'm just, whatever my customer is looking for, I can find that home better than anybody else. That's why I'm number one.
Absolutely. And by selling online, the number one thing, the need that we're filling for a lot of people is convenience, where they can buy something and it shows up at their house soon after. So the worst thing you can do for someone that's looking for convenience is what? Put up a bunch of listings in their face that are garbage and listings that they don't want. That is not convenient. So if you have a quality listing and you're one of the first listings that person who values convenience clicks on, probably going to buy your item. But if they have to search through 10, 20, 30 items because there's a lot of listings on eBay that are no good and are being thrown at this person who's shopping for convenience online, that's a bad buyer experience. So, time, convenience is one of the number one factors that go into our business. And that's why it's of the utmost importance to put forth a listing that is actually what people are looking for. Because a couple of years ago, even before people got into, the TikTok mentality with a very short attention span, on average, people were only spending 8 seconds on a listing before they saw something that they didn't like and they clicked out of it. So I can imagine that time has only gotten shorter. So you only have, a couple of seconds to capture somebody's attention and convert that into a successful sale. If you can't do that almost immediately, they're clicking out and they're going to somebody else.
So eBay, Google, YouTube, Patreon, every single website has the same goal. One, to give you exactly what you search for. Mm-hmm. And two, to recommend something that they think you might be interested in.
Right.
And so when you fill out your listings as properly as possible, you're giving the algorithms the best opportunity to find customers for you. So that's all they're doing. Because if you went to Google and you never found what you were looking for, you would stop using it.
Sure, absolutely. You would go to Bing, or you would go to you would go back to the library.
Yeah.
But we use Google because it's convenient.
Yep.
And it takes no time.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing our customer is looking for on eBay. So like, there are stores out there that have like an overall conversion rate of next to zero because they have a bunch of listings that are not correct that get submitted to customers. And like, eBay looks on every single listing on an individual basis based on their conversion rate, but they also look at a store wide. What is your conversion rate store wide? And if eBay keeps putting the money in your listing and presenting it to a customer, and your listings never convert because they're wrong, they're priced too high, something is off-putting, how many more times can we ask eBay to acquire a customer and send it to us when we never convert? But if we have a high chance of converting, eBay has every incentive in the world to keep sending customers to us. That's why, the top half of the front page is prime real estate. That's Broadway. That's Park Place. We all show up in the search somewhere. Some people are on page 89. That item will never sell.
Yeah.
But if your items do not convert, then you're not on Park Place anymore. You're on page 89. So why would eBay keep spending money sending a customer your direction, and every single customer walks into your store 1 foot, looks around, and then turns around and leaves?
Yep. So the first step is to pick a category. Number 2 is to intensely research. And this is something that is also very cool in the group. When people post, hey, I did a little digging and I found out this. That's always a great post. I didn't do any digging. Tell me the answer. That is always the worst post. So if you do a little digging or a lot of digging, it's totally different.
Every time you dig and find something, that's going to make you $10,000 over the course of your eBay career.
Yeah.
If you never dig, you never strike gold, and you end up going bankrupt, and you end up doing something else.
Yeah, that's right. You just got to get in there and dig and start researching little tiny things and why people care. So maybe you don't have an exceptional memory. Maybe you exceptionally care.
It's possible.
Because if I said right now, if you guys memorize these 6 numbers and it'll make you $1 million, everybody will perk up, write it down, listen, care, and they'll remember the sequence magically, even though they don't have a good memory.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that, I don't know, like I told you guys maybe once or twice, my first memory as a little kid was my mom buying me an encyclopedia. Yep. So I think like before I could even walk, talk, or read, my mom gave me an encyclopedia just to look at the photos, get familiar. And I think like just from so young, I was just trained to like remember these facts and recall these things. And probably what happened is I ended up reading the encyclopedia and I said something that was factual and interesting. And I probably got a great reaction from grownups, and I probably enjoyed that. And that set me off on my path of like, I need to acquire information. And I knew the more information that I could acquire is always going to be beneficial. So, for eBay, the more information, the more that you can learn about this game, look at it as a challenge. And the more information and skills and knowledge that you get, the more successful you are going to be. I can tell you right now, if I never put forth any effort on brand research, any effort on learning the platform, I would not be in the same position that I am today, without a doubt.
Okay, so now you picked a category, you do some intense research. This is very different because now you're armed with the research, then you go look for it. That's actually very different than looking up what you find.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking up what you find is what are we going to find today?
Yeah.
Which is different. And then you'll always find yourself to door number 2, where, people who are listening to this, they didn't listen to the secret podcast, which, has gone pretty viral inside of the Facebook group. But door number 1 is $1,000 worth of profit of Tommy Bahama shirts. Not interesting, not exciting, but it's guaranteed $1,000 worth of profit. Door number 2 is we have no idea what's going to be back there, but it could be $2,000 worth of profit, or it could be $0 worth of profit. And the majority of people take door number 2, even though they have no idea what it is, don't know how to sell it, could be worth 0 or could be worth double. We want to pick door number 2. So I would rather front load the information, front load the research. I'll take door number 1 because door number 1 is there every single day. You have the ability to pick door number 1 every single day. Yep. You also have the ability to pick door number 2 every single day. You can walk into any thrift store in America and there is a mystery, a puzzle, a gamble. And you can spend weeks, if not months, if not years, trying to unlock whatever door number 2 is. And if you just stick to door number 1 and stick to Old Faithful and stick to what's consistent, it's like the turtle and the hare. Like, you will outpace the people who always choose door number 2.
So I just made a new video that's going to post soon talking about, just as an example, most women in the United States are between the size of 8 and 14. The most popular jean sizes on eBay for men are 32 and 34. If you now know that and then go look for jeans, it's different than just looking through the jeans and looking up what you find. Inside of eBay, you can look at what's selling for how much. I think people, like, we always talk about doing things in the right order makes a big difference. I think that makes the biggest difference, is doing the research first. And I know we talk about this endlessly, but we want people to start intimately caring about their category. And it starts with doing the research before you go. Then when you go, I think that really fully commits it to memory.
Sure. And the call that, we did on January 5th about how to find profitable items, the caveat is not do this after you go to the thrift store. Like, we never say that. Yeah. We never say do the January 5th call after you go to the thrift store. Yeah. It's always do that call, build your brand list, build your Rolodex, figure out the sell through, and figure out what brands are acceptable for you inside of the range that you want. If you want $20 to $30 items, we show you how to find those items yourself, because the items that I find, the items that Chris finds, you can't carbon copy it. So doing those exercises that we have into the group and the people that have done them has obviously paid off, because you could tell the people that have, you could tell because they also recommend the calls to other people because they see how helpful it was. Mm-hmm. But taking that actual time and putting forth that effort to learn first and then do, there's a lot of people that do and then try to learn.
Yeah.
But those people always have to go back to the beginning and do it right again.
Fortunately, you got to go back to the beginning. The fastest way to the top of the mountain is not to start in the middle. It sounds like you can do that, especially if you're older or you have some life experience or you've been successful in something else, but it doesn't work. You have to go back and figure out from the beginning how everything works together and the relationship within each thing. So if you go now armed with the research, find something, go home, list it, and then review the listing and see what happened, that's the full cycle. And if you list it after you've researched it, get a price that was higher or lower than you thought, then you can go back and do it again. And you're on a different playing field than everybody else.
And if you do it absolutely correctly, not only can you go back and do it again, you could go back and do it twice or more with the same sale.
Yeah. I think that when you have the ability to review what you've done, I think it's really eye-opening, because I don't know, just for me, okay, this is the point I was trying to make. For every single person in the group looking for a specific category, right? You're trying to sell something specific. There is somebody in the world that has so much of that they can't list it all.
Sure.
In any category.
Yeah. Or they're in the business of processing those goods.
Yeah.
Whether it's blenders, VCRs, Nintendos, it doesn't matter. There's someone that has too many of them where they can't list them all one by one, and that's where you come in.
Yep.
Or they're in the process of moving those from point A to point B.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's crazy to me. Can you imagine? Anything you can think of, you do enough research, you become intimate with the product and the customer, you can find out where it comes from. and you can get to the point where you don't even have enough time to list it all.
Yep.
Every category, every single mature reseller in a niche has too much product.
Or access to too much product.
Or access to too much product, yes.
Yeah. Because having too much product, that is a deficit, and that's not where people should go. But
that's right.
Having the opportunity to turn down product because you have too much, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, you made a few points about at this stage in your career, it's not hard to find supply.
No, not at all. That's the least of the worries. And it's been like that for a while. And, people always ask the question of like, how do you get access to that amount of inventory?
Right.
And a lot of it is reputation. If you are known as someone in your area that can facilitate a lot of the items, people will take notice and people will find you either by seeing you or by word of mouth, and they will approach you with the product because they know you have the ability to facilitate it. But if you're, buy 50, list 10 a day, buy 50, list 10 a day, buy 50, list 10 a day, that's not somebody who you want to approach when you do have a good deal, because they can't facilitate the product. Especially, that's not someone who you want to approach when you want to establish a long-term business relationship, because sure, maybe they can buy once, but they'll never be able to recoup their money fast enough to place another order with you. And if you have the ability to facilitate a lot of items, then you have the ability to reorder. And the smaller you can close that gap between order and facilitation, the more you can reorder. And that's more money for you. And that's also more money for the supplier. And then you get into the economies of scale where you're buying so much that you can negotiate or drive the price down.
So in this book, it says, there is nothing new, or there's nothing new that is valuable. Everything valuable now is a combination of old things that were already valuable. So if you pay attention and do the homework and start figuring out what is valuable, it transfers to so many different parts. Like you were talking about these different check marks that things that you're looking for might have. And you start figuring out the relationship between 1, 4, 7, and 9. And you find an item you've never seen before, but it has 3 of those elements.
Sure.
Then you're training yourself to look for facts.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's the same for you for the polo jacket. There's a million polo jackets.
Yeah.
Not all of them are worth money. Yeah. Certain patterns are. You had a puffer jacket. That's a check mark. We had goose down in it. That's a check mark. It had the fireball pattern. That's a check mark. Had the Indian head. That's a check mark. All of those things can lead you to say, hey, wait, this might be something valuable, because you've only sent me a picture one time of a polo jacket.
Yeah.
And it was a polo jacket worth $800.
Yeah.
You have found 5,000 polo jackets this year. Okay. You've only sent me a picture of one.
Yeah.
So that told me that you checked off all of these boxes and you said, wait a second, I need to figure out what this is. But the regular item, you know enough to know this is regular. I don't need to send a picture to anyone and get a second opinion.
This is going to sound interesting, but I also sent you a picture of Alpha Industries, and the jacket to me doesn't look valuable. It's just that it has some custom things, like really detailed zippers, that's so unusual. And to print Alpha on a zipper, that's got to be expensive.
Yeah, some of those could be very expensive, but like you said, that was a checkbox. You saw the zipper, you saw the name on the zipper, you saw the style.
Yeah.
And that was a couple of check boxes where you said, hey, maybe this is something worth researching a little bit more. And then, for next time, you could go home, you could check eBay, and then you could look at Alpha Industries, you could search high to low and see what inside of that brand commands a premium. And then hopefully inside of that brand, you see a style or an indicator where you can take that piece out and then search that. So flight jacket. Okay, let me search flight jacket high to low. And then you start unlocking all of these different brands off of one singular item, off of one singular checkbox, where now you're searching flight jackets, and maybe Perry Ellis, like we dog on Perry Ellis, but maybe you see in the comps a Perry Ellis flight jacket sold for $120.
Yeah.
So that is an item, barring whatever people say about Perry Ellis, that is an outlier. This style on this bad brand still sells. And there are a couple Perry Ellis jacket that sell for good money. But you can start kind of connecting those dots and start doing that research. And now you see, okay, flight jackets in a bunch of different kinds of brands are worth money. And I guarantee you, if you do a flight jacket search, you're going to start seeing bomber jackets show up. And if you don't know what bomber jackets are, let's research those. And then we start seeing brands where bomber jackets sell good. And then we start looking around. And then, okay, some of these are military-esque or military adjacent. Now let's search military jackets. And you can keep going down. Everyone wants to go down a rabbit hole, but no one goes down the rabbit hole of research. Nobody.
They're
but
not.
Like that exact chain of command is how I learned brands.
Yeah.
Alpha Industries, flight jackets, bomber jackets, military jackets. And then when you get into military jackets, I'm going to tell you exactly what happens. Polo Ralph Lauren stuff shows up that's military inspired. And then you start looking at that stuff. Mm-hmm. That is how you develop the Rolodex, by being curious, by wanting to consume information, by wanting to not pass by items that are profitable when you see them.
So this book is actually pretty interesting. I feel like if you ever write a book, it might be short like this with really good ideas. So this guy said, the habit of searching for relationships between two facts is the highest skill in our era. So you look at the relationship between flight jacket and military, the relationship between flight jacket and Ralph Lauren. And so if you know the most item specifics and know how they all intertwine, then your judgment is worth so much more than everybody else's. So when you're at the thrift, you're just basically eliminating, like if your criteria is 6 check marks before you pick up an item, and you are the most knowledgeable, you're eliminating 5 checkbox items instantly.
Absolutely. Yeah. The overwhelming majority of items don't even check off a box.
Yeah.
And you spend 0 time on them.
Yeah.
They're invisible to you on the racks until you come across something that checks a box.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times for me, it was brand, how much it was asking at the thrift, style, which would lead me to sell-through rate. And those were kind of like the first check boxes that I looked at, brand, how much are they asking? What's the style? And now I know the sell rate. After that, I can make an informed decision to purchase this item and keep cruising. If it's an item that I don't know what it is, then I say, okay, this is a flight jacket. This has a nice zipper, like you said. Maybe this is made in a certain country. Maybe this is made of a certain material.
Yep.
That's an item where even if you front loaded all of the research, we can't know everything. Maybe 1 out of 100 items, we stand over to the side and we do a quick research. If it's good, we keep it. If it's bad, we put it back. But at least now we know, we commit it to memory. This brand I saw at this thrift store, it sells for this much, or it doesn't sell. It gets added to the Rolodex or not added to the Rolodex. And it's like a process of elimination, but like the keepers are few and far between. There were times when I was so bored on the thrift route that I would count hangers until I found some. And like, on average, it was like out of every 150 to 200 items would be an item that was acceptable to me that I would throw in the cart. If the store was hitting, it would be 1 out of 100 was acceptable and I would put into the cart. 99+% of the items did not check off my check boxes for criteria, and I left them at the thrift store. If you are unsure about what your metrics are or what you're looking for, you spend a lot of time on item number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, trying to eliminate them on the spot rather than already previously eliminating those items before you even get there.
And this is an intimate knowledge of the product. So step 1, and most people aren't even doing step 1, but this is gather new material. So somebody on the morning call mentioned that they had organic cotton in the title, but the item was not organic cotton. The customer left a positive review, but then later returned the item. And this could happen where they get the item, it's what they think it is, but then they put it on and it's not the right material. So they go back and open the item not as described. And the person that brought it up mentioned, it was a little disappointed that the customer took those actions without reaching out first. But then I mentioned, on Amazon, a lot of people know that if they open up a reason for a defect, they don't have to pay return shipping. And they never say, like, have you tried it? And is it not what they just ask, do you want to return it and why? Sure. And the same person said that they return items all the time with a different return reason than maybe the reason that it was. Sure. So, and that would be a false item not as described. But if a scenario that happened on eBay, that was a proper one. But this is all part of understanding intimately how your customer is when they get an item. Thank you for listening to the Resellers Podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. If you'd like to listen to the full episode, please check us out at patreon.com/the Resellers Podcast for all information, all our full-length episodes, over thousands of hours of coaching, and our Facebook mentorship group, which is $35 per month, just about $1 a day to help you get to the next level. We appreciate you guys. See you next time.